Calling to order our special meeting of the Board of Directors of the Georgetown Divide Public Utility District. Today is Monday, July 7th. It is 11:07 a.m. Director Thornborough, you're requesting to join via Zoom this meeting due to an emergency circumstance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is anyone over the
Hold on, yes.
There's more to it.
Thank you, Shalmer.
What are we doing?
Read the rest of your statement, Director
Oh.
Thornborough.
Oh, shoot. Okay, hold on a second. Yes, I have a or physical medical emergency that prevents me from attending in person.
Is anyone over 18 years with you? If so, state
Yeah.
your relationship to that person.
That's my wife.
By consensus, does the board approve Director Thornborough's request to participate remotely? Take a roll call vote.
Michael Saunders,
Yes.
Robert Stovall.
Yes.
Mitch McDonald,
Yes.
and Donna Seaman.
Yes.
Does Mike have to vote?
No,
Okay.
there you go. And then now he's part of the meeting, do a roll call vote with him.
Okay, we're calling to order. Can we have a roll call, please? We kind of already did that, but
Let's do it again.
again,
Yes, Vice President Michael Saunders,
Present.
Treasurer Robert Stovall,
Present.
Director Mitch McDonald,
Present.
Director Mike Thornborough,
Here.
and President Donna Seaman.
present. Could we please have the Pledge of Allegiance, Director Sanders?
Okay, let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we're up to adoption of the agenda.
I have a question for the lawyer before we adopt. So, was this meeting called under the reconsideration policy?
It was not, we don't have. This was called just under the future agenda policy. Reconsideration is something that would occur at the same meeting when we had this discussion.
Right, so we don't have that policy.
Right, I think we discussed changing the policy and the board said, let's just keep it under the future agenda policy, whether it's a reconsider item or not. So that's how we treated this.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any changes to the agenda? Nick,
Not that I know at this time.
can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mitch McDonald,
Aye. Here.
Michael Thornborough,
Aye.
Robert Stovall,
Aye.
Michael Saunders,
Aye.
Donna Seaman.
Aye. Thank you. Agenda is adopted. Okay, please note the guidelines for the public forum as they appear on the meeting agenda. As a reminder, under the Brown Act, the public must address all public comments to the board, not to staff or other members of the public. Due to the Brown Act limitation, the board is not able to discuss or take action on items not on the agenda. The public forum is now open
These are for items on the agenda.
for specifically items on the agenda. I see no public comments. So we are going to move forward with the action items. The action item is to reconsider approval of Director Saunders' attendance at an official event, Mountain County's Legislative Day and related eligible expenses legislative update and develop district positions. Open for discussion.
Well, I think that, since I'm the one that asked for the meeting, then maybe I should lead it off.
Director Thornborough.
All right, well, first of all, I had been trying for almost a month now to get my thoughts all written down and all that sort of thing. I just haven't had the strength, so I want to do this off of memory, which hopefully it works out all right. I got a lot to say on this matter. This matter has caused a serious thing, I would say. For some time now, our board has been obviously divided, which, that's normal when you have 5 people with 5 different backgrounds and 5 different opinions and all that sort of thing. But so that would be a normal situation. But unfortunately, in our case, that's not the situation. Situation is that we have 3 board members who are, in my opinion, very upset because they keep getting popped for violations to board policies. And so they have been making what I consider to be rash decisions that are not in the best interest of the ratepayers and our district. They're more for their own personal agenda. Now, this mostly goes towards 2 of those 3. That'd be Director Saunders and Director McDonald. Director Stovall seems to be, in my opinion, kind of following Director Saunders' lead. This whole thing is so cut and dry by design. Michael Saunders was involved in this policy and putting this policy together. He, of all people, should know everything about the policy. And yet he's playing these, what I consider to be games, to try to get his, to benefit his personal financial situation. And what you guys did last meeting was just unbelievable. Now, we're going to go through that real quick, hopefully. We get to the issue in the agenda, in the policy, is you must have prior board approval. Now, the board does not have the authority to go in and circumvent their own policies or to violate their own policies. They don't have that ability. They must follow the policies. Now, in this particular policy, it puts in there an exception. And it says, if and only if the board decides as a whole that there was not enough time for Director Saunders to get approval from the board prior to the event, then the board could essentially go against policy and go ahead and grant the reimbursements for Director Saunders. You guys ought to go back and watch the video of that whole episode because it's just mind-boggling. We have our legal counsel repeatedly explaining to the board, here's what the policy says you must do. You have to decide if there was enough time for him to get approval or there wasn't. That's what you have to decide. You guys are all over the place coming up with irrelevant, totally irrelevant arguments. Like, for example, Michael Saunders decided that he wanted to represent the district. Well, that's well and good. I'm not sure you get to make that decision, but all right. Second of all, I believe Nick was going to be there, and Nick is our representative for the district. So why do we need you to be there also? And that's a whole nother subject. But point being is that it was clearly demonstrated there was plenty of time for Michael Saunders to get approval. He even admitted it. And our legal counsel even said he chose not to get it. He was there. He could have did it. There's nothing stopping him from doing it. He goes on requests to go on shoot, events with other directors, and they all get permission to go or, you know, anyway. This is so cut and dry. And the three of you, being Saunders, Stovall, and Mitch McDonald, you just thumb your nose at legal counsel, at the rest of us, at our customers, at the people who elected you to represent them, and you decided to just go off and do your own thing. That's totally against the policy. You can't do that. The whole thing was just, to me, in my opinion, it's illegal as hell because it violates the policy. Policy says if and only if these conditions were met, then the board can consider go ahead and honoring Saunders's reimbursement. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm not doing well, but anyway. Our legal counsel, you guys just ignored. In multiple attempts, he said, this is what you need to do under the policy. And all of this evidence was proven that there was time. It's an open and shut case. So there's none of this, oh, well, you know, we need somebody to represent the district. Oh, we need this, we need that. No, it's cut and dry. And as legal counsel pointed out, it is very clear. It is not subject, there's no way you can interpret this another way. What bothers me, one of the many things that bothers me about this whole thing, is this isn't the first time that Director Saunders has gone in to manipulate policy in order to help his personal financial or to benefit his personal finances. It's not the first time. We all know it. We brought this up before when which is why this policy was reviewed and changed again. So I don't get this. I just don't get it at all. And it's almost like the three of you are coming up with these ridiculous decisions out of spite or something. To me, it's childish as hell. You know, it's open and shut. He had an opportunity to get permission, or the other word, but anyway, to get permission, he had the opportunity. It's crystal clear because Director Seaman had the opportunity and she went and got permission. He could have did it at the same time. He chose not to. Now he wants to play these games to try to get this retro reimbursement, claiming that, well, you know, he's going to represent the district. That's irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. The policy is the policy. It's very clear, very cut and dry. And that policy, that whole decision or the decision that the three of you made, in my opinion, is illegal because it doesn't follow the policy. The policy made it very clear. It's only one way that you can go ahead and approve his retroactive reimbursement. Only one. And you didn't meet that. So what's the issue? So I think that's all I can think of for right this second. I'm sure I'll have more to say.
Any other board member comments?
Yeah, there it is. At the August 3rd, 2025, Board of Directors meetings, the minutes reflect item 8I, consider approval of director expenses for district representation at the Mountain Counties Water Resource Association. The minutes show that passed unanimously, and neither in the motion did it identify which director would attend that meeting. And as has been stated, section 4090.04 states prior approval required except where a majority of the board finds that the board meeting schedule did not reasonably permit approval by the approval of the request. Originally, the president had registered for the meeting and planned to attend. The president did not attend the meeting. The vice president did attend the meeting, and the attendance of a director had been previously approved unanimously by the board on April 3rd, 2025. So pursuant to that section, the approval by the board found that the board meeting did not reasonably permit the prior approval to request one director to be replaced by another director. The majority thus approved the expenses by the vice president, as opposed to disallowing the expenses because the president did not adhere. Again, in the minutes, it states that this board approved a director to go to the meeting, and that's what this board did. The board approved the expenses associated with that meeting, and so the expenses for a director to go was reasonable to me. Another comment. First of all, I'd like to say that I celebrate the ability for a director to put an item on the agenda. That's something that we had changed. However, I am dismayed that we are having a meeting with legal counsel here to address an issue which could have been put on the meeting 2 days from now, just over 48 hours. I don't understand why there's an urgency to this, to have it take place now as opposed to Thursday. That, to me, this is a waste of district resources to have this item addressed today as opposed to in 2 days. Thank you.
Any more director comments?
Yes.
Director Saunders,
Is it, can I ask something and
I just pointed out
ask
that
this question? Okay.
Well, he can, let's ask.
Director McDonald,
Yeah, I believe this meeting was scheduled for later, but due to the constraints of conflicting schedules, it was a separate meeting, granted, but it was 2 days away because of a conflicted schedule. So I don't think it was, the proximity was the issue, to clarify that. I had more of an issue with an attempt to shorten meeting lengths, like we went into great length last time. We're separating meetings now to make 2 meetings instead of 1, so it doesn't accomplish the purpose, but that's why it was changed, I believe.
I still stand by what I said.
Okay.
Director Saunders.
Thank you, Director Thornborough, for bringing this up. We all are directors. We have the ability to bring up whatever issue we feel. What I do not like is the accusations that I am wasting ratepayers' money and not representing the district. I was elected and voted on by the district. Anytime I go as an elected official, I represent the district. There is no policy that limits the number of directors from going to events, so we can go to any events. My role at the district is I'm the legislative liaison, so all of the legislative committees and stuff, that's what I do. That's part of my job. That's what I was elected by this board to be the liaison. There's some handouts I gave to show kind of what led up to this legislative advocacy day as well. So Georgetown Divide Public Utility District is an executive member of the Mountain Counties Water Resources Association. Staff and board all have an active role in helping with Mountain County's goals and missions. The members, all of the members of the agency vote and direct and lead the organization. It is governed by a board of 9 people, but all of the staff, all of the members, all of the agencies are all part of it and participate and help create the policies and the mission and goals for where we want to go with Mountain Counties. GPUD is one of 24 agencies that are executive members, and there are up to 4 now affiliate members. I've been a member of Mountain Counties since I've been on the board, and I've been attending their events for the past 7 years. The association is governed by 9 members of the board, one of which is President Seaman, who was elected to this current term. The previous election, she was not elected, and because she was not known by a lot of the agencies at that time, so myself and the GM campaigned to make sure that she was elected this time around. The last, I went to the Mountain County Advocacy Days, the first time we had it last year, and it went well, but there were some things that could be improved. On February 7th, I was added to the Mountain County Legislative Committee, and I began working on the overarching strategies for mountain counties, which included to prioritize engagement with the California state budget process and Prop 4 amounts, which are designated for our region. As Director Seaman said when she was going to go to this meeting, I'm going ding, 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 ding to bring money back to the district. That's what I've been doing all the time as legislative liaison, all of the meetings that I go to. The other priority was to limit legislative engagement to priority 1 bills. With the bills, there were 35 bills that I researched, went through, and came up with positions for mountain counties. We got those down to priorities and we gave those to the board. And on the handout, you could see what the final legislative activity that we came with. Why is that important? Each of those legislative bills that we supported or opposed, you can see there is a legislative member there. So these were the members we wanted to target to go to this legislative advocacy so we could talk to them in terms of supporting their bill or opposing their bill. The other thing we wanted to do was the majority of the legislators are either from LA or south of Sacramento. So this bill is for our area. We want to make sure we talk to the legislators to let them know why should they invest in our area if it doesn't affect them. So we had to show how our water affects the rest of California. That was where we came up with priorities for the budget for Prop 4, especially wildfire prevention. And with this, we also had to coordinate with the people that were getting money from the bill. So CAL FIRE, the California Fire Prevention Service, Sierra Nevada Conservancy, and forest coalitions. With water infrastructure, we also coordinated with the Association of California Water Agencies Headwaters Committees. There was a lot of meetings, a lot of things I attend to help do this, and all of this I do without asking for any reimbursement. And I've done this for the last 6, 7, 8 years. And I do not ask for reimbursement. I go to these meetings, I do it on my dime. At the February 7th, when this whole thing came up, when we created it, our meeting was on February 6th, and I applied to go to the event February 27th. That was long after our board meeting. And as always, I'll just do it on my dime because I'm doing it for the district. And it's what I do to help with what we can do for our CIP projects. Every funding money that we get back in grants or for CIP projects is what the ratepayers don't have to pay. So we are specifically looking at what the percent increase is every year. And we saw on the rate study, it was supposed to be 10%. And our job is to make sure we can offset as many of these CIP projects with funding to drop that to 5% as I proposed at our rate study meeting. And hopefully, if we're lucky, get that to below that. So that's the reason why I go to all of these meetings. None of this is to help me at all. This is to help the community, the customers, the district. In April, we had a roundtable Mountain County meeting to come up with the legislative and regulatory priorities. The agencies that are there is Yuba Water Agency, El Dorado, Calaveras, Utica Water and Power, Union Public, and Georgetown Divide. All of these districts, when you go to these legislative advocacies and all of the events we have, their GMs are there. They're talking about Amador Water. They're talking about El Dorado. They're talking about all of the different agencies. If we're not there, we're not going to get money coming to us. So that's why I'm there to make sure that GPUD is heard. When I went to Aqua DC, I talked to Senator Padilla. I talked to the acting deputy for USDA. They know the story of GPUD. They know there's 3,900 customers that have to pay not only for the water, but for the forest and infrastructure around it, which increases their rates to maintain the infrastructure for water coming down. So we pay above and beyond because we're in the forest. And that's the purview of the national federal lands, and they're not supporting us. So they know that and they've helped. And we saw Padilla gave us an appropriation and USDA gave us $8 million in grants. So those direct talks are impactful. They know our story and it comes back to us. So we came up with our budget priorities. And the plan was to secure resilient water, forest, and economic outcomes for the Sierra Nevada region, which was California's watershed. We asked for at least $1 billion in Proposition 4 money, which was already targeted for our area, to make sure that it came to us, because the headwaters are where more than 60% of the state's developed water comes from. We wanted to make sure that those key priorities were shared during the meetings, and each meeting had a designated facilitator or regional representative that was responsible for the introductions and making sure of all the key points were covered, making sure we added personal stories from the agencies and calling on members as needed. I had a relationship with the new Senator McGuire, so if you can see on the agenda that I was the facilitator for Senator McGuire's team, and you can see there are different teams, and Director Seaman was supposed to be one of the representatives for Assemblymember Jeff Gonzalez. So you can see there are many legislative people there, and we also met with administrations from the Newsom administration were there, and also the Deputy Secretary for Forest and Wildfire Resilience. If you look at the agenda, as we talk about if it's a junket, so it started at 8:15 in the morning. It ended at about 4 o'clock. There was a leadership reception at about 4:30. And that was probably the only part where there was a debrief where you can say it was in a place where you could go and eat. And I didn't attend that because I had to leave because I had another meeting to attend. So I went from meeting to meeting to meeting. So as we said, so this was on the, I went, and prior to going to this meeting, President Seaman asked me to take her to this meeting, but I couldn't commit to taking her because I knew I had a meeting afterwards and I wasn't sure what time I had to leave. So when I went there and she wasn't there, that's how I knew she wasn't at the meeting. And I knew we approved in the budget for a director to go. So when I came back the next meeting, which was the June 11th meeting, that's when I asked for reimbursement. We talked about wasting the ratepayers' money. The reimbursement for that meeting was $190. The amount of money that we've wasted in legal fees, or spent in legal fees, sorry, Frank, spent in legal fees over all of these policies, committees and stuff is now upwards of $15,000. That's why every time they ask, how much does this cost for, why is our legal fees going up? These are some of the reasons why. We didn't want to bring it up because we didn't want to call out on infighting squabble of the board, which is raising the money. But when we talk about wasting the ratepayers' money, that is it. $190 versus $15,000. For Frank to be here for the day is about $1,000. To get reimbursed for $190, which is, I'm not doing this for my personal benefit. I'm doing it for the district. The Public Utilities Code, if we follow directly the letter of the law, is we have to be reimbursed for anything we do for the district. We have to be reimbursed for the mileage. And I brought that up before during the committee policy, that if I put in every mileage that I go to, it's upwards of $4,000 or $5,000 a year. And I don't put it in. But now if we're going to follow the letter of the law, I think I need to start putting in the mileage for every meeting. So that will really end up affecting the district. So that occurred. I came the next meeting after. June 11th, I asked to be reimbursed because it was budgeted for, and the board voted on it 3-2. And I thought that was fine, and I didn't think I was doing anything above and beyond, and it is definitely not for my personal gain. And that's all I have to say.
Director McDonald, do you have something to say?
I did. Okay, a few board members have now managed to push the envelope too far and awaken at least one sleeping giant. Up till now, no one has dared to mention in public the white elephant in the room, which is approximately $15,000 in additional legal fees incurred this past year, directly related to what I believe is a vindictive retaliation by some board members as a result of the MOU vote last spring that didn't go in their favor, creating a hostile board environment amongst this board. In my opinion, this demonstrates a severe lack of respect and fail to appreciate the value of certain board members and what they bring to the district. We have spent approximately $7,500 in legal fees to develop policies for directors and how they assist the district and our community. Additionally, roughly $2,500 has been spent on additional legal fees at $295 per hour for legal counsel that could listen to us bicker over an $1,100 bill last time. Now this $190 will cost us who knows how much. Well, I do now, approximately $1,300 today for legal counsel, not considering staff time and preparation of hundreds and thousands of dollars more prepping and being here for this meeting. And additional wasted cost of money we feel is our legal counsel is trying to explain the cost of service, the service analysis and rate study to board members who didn't want to listen to experts we chose to hire to do this work every day. I received the results of the board votes. I reviewed the results of the board votes prior to the MOU vote last year when we appeared to be a well-functioning board, and approximately 97% of the votes were a unanimous consensus. Since the infighting has abruptly changed, we are now averaging about 72%. Many of these votes show a continuation of vindictive retaliation. I doubt that Washington, D.C. advocate Don Police, watching this board's dysfunction this past year, arguing and bickering between sides, one accusing the other of waste and fraud, was by one board director, Thornborough, would repeat his comment he made previous at a board meeting stating that we appear to be functioning as one of the easiest going, harmonious and synergistic boards he has observed. And this is from our DC advocate. The term penny wise and pound foolish has come to mind virtually every board meeting since last spring, after the MOU vote didn't go in their favor. This term is often used in various contexts, primarily describing individuals who are overly cautious about small expenditures while ignoring larger risks or costs. The expression has its roots in the popular proverb, penny wise, pound foolish, which indicates a misallocation of financial prudence and hyper-focusing on the wrong ideas. This smells like harassment to me, with a lack of appreciation and value of directors' times. And I can envision Director Saunders now beginning to request lawful reimbursements of $3,000 to $5,000 a year for mileage expenses previously not submitted for reimbursement over the last 6 years, and has absorbed out of his pocket, or not choosing to participate in future events that would most likely affect funds going towards our spending plan. This was agreed to be removed by Director Saunders after certain board members put up a fight to stop that as well. Finally, these conferences and events can have a great impact on the community and the board members to better understand how all the process works. We should be encouraging more participation in these conferences and events, not trying to stifle any participation. We need to have the best and most educated board members possible for our district. That's what I have to say.
Well, my turn. One, I am sad that we're not staying on topic and you've gone to throwing dirt, and that very much upsets me about this. And two, the April 3rd meeting, it was my request for my reimbursement. So that was something that wasn't reflected in the minutes for that April 3rd meeting. So that didn't get shown in the minutes, but it sounds like we missed catching that in the May meeting.
There was a form that went here.
I'm understanding, but I'm just saying I had requested it for my own, for that May meet, for that legislative day. It wasn't general to everybody in here. It was specifically for one person. And that's how it should have been reflected in the meeting, minutes of the meeting, and it wasn't. And if you kind of look at this, that policy is the one that cost everybody so much money. Of that infighting that was going on. And that was kind of sad that it came down to this. But you know, you read the first line, 4090.04, except where a majority of the board find the board meeting schedule did not reasonably permit prior to approval of the request. That pretty much says it. So the vote that went in after the fact was not done correctly. So we kind of ignored what the policy said. This is not against anyone in my my case, it's not anybody in particular we're pointing at, just happened to be, you know, one person, put in for it after the fact. But it is against what the policy said, and I'm sad that we are ignoring what our policy and how we should be, voting and dealing with our policies as more of a black and white rather than just a piece of paper we wrote up for no good reason. Director Thornborough.
First of all, I meant to do this at the beginning. I want to apologize for calling this meeting 2 days ahead of the other one. I'm not going to be able to make the Wednesday meeting for medical reasons. And I'm going to go into that with all you later. So, there wasn't a way to, in my opinion, avoid this. I think that with all due respect to all the rest of you, all the points you guys are all bringing up, especially all the lengthy points that Director Saunders brought up, are, with all due respect, irrelevant. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you have to have authority from the board as the individual. And as if I understand the policy correct, it's supposed to be each individual, as we have done. We have done, this is what we've done before. List the event, list the individuals going, to give individual permission for each one to go. Now, Director Saunders, as I have said numerous times, used to call you Mr. Policy because you were the one that always insisted we have a policy for this, a policy for that. You and I were the ones that put together the policy that we're now talking about. And you, of all people, should know exactly what's in the policy. You've had no problem seeking authority to go to other conferences where other directors were going also. So it's not an issue of only one can go. That's not in any policy. But you knew. All you had to do was say, hey, I'm going to go to the state. The board would have approved it. Everything would be fine. You chose not to, as legal counsel pointed out in the meeting last month. So I don't understand why you just didn't say, you know, hey, I'm going to go too. It would have been an easy thing to resolve. But no, now it's turned into something like this. Policies must be followed. If they're not going to be followed, then what's the point in having them? So that's where I'm at on that. One thing that really bothers me is that with all of the constant, what do you call it, violations to policies that we seem to be running into, that, you have to excuse me, I'm having difficult here. Oh shoot, I forgot where I was going. Anyway, Mike, it was so simple to do. Why didn't you just do it? You know, you didn't do it. So in my opinion, just, you know, hey, just admit you screwed up, bite the bullet. Because the policies must be followed. You know, we might as well just throw away all the policies if this is going to just keep on happening like this. So I think that's all I've got this go around.
Thank you. Put your hand down. Director Saunders.
I said I was going to this meeting in March after I paid for it in February. The policy clearly states there is no policy that stops a director from going anywhere. We do not need board of approval to attend an event. You only need prior approval to ask for reimbursement. The policy does say after the fact, within, I believe, what is it, 60 days? That you can ask for reimbursement if it did not meet the schedule beforehand. And the reason I asked was because nobody showed up for the meeting. I specifically came to the meeting in June and said, because there wasn't a person at the last meeting, this is why I'm asking for this based on this policy, because it's within 60 days. I did not ask for prior pre-approval. I did not screw up. I said I did not ask for prior pre-approval. I asked the board if I could be reimbursed for this. That was my ask. And now I ask the legal counsel, because I'm not asking people who are trying to guess what the policy is. So legal counsel, was I in my right to ask that?
Any director can ask for reimbursement after the fact, provided the majority of the board makes the finding for that exception, period.
And that's what I did. And the board voted on it. So I did not do anything out of order. There is no fraud. I told you clearly, even at the meeting, I did not ask for prior approval. And this is why I'm asking for it now, per the policy. I know the policy. I wrote the policy, so I'm very well aware of how it is. And we worked on it together to make sure that our policy was in place, such the fact that we were not allowing one director to be able to go and then voting against another director, which has been happening. And that's been the problem with trying to make the policy broader to allow for people to not be off by 0.6 miles and not get reimbursed. That was the whole point in making sure our policy is equitable. So it's more of a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of how you see the policy, where you think it was something that was done outside of, but it was not. And I know you believe you're in your right, but I'm telling you, I'm following the policy. Thank you.
Could I ask legal, I don't see in this 4090 where it says that there's the 60 days.
I'm not familiar with the 60 days,
I'm not either, and it's not in here. So
but
that's why I was reading through it and I don't see that. I think there's another policy maybe that has that in, but this one does not.
The 60 days has to do with submitting the expenses.
But I'm saying it's not in this policy.
No, it's.
That's all I'm saying, is if we're referencing this policy, it's not in here.
well, I'm not sure if it is, but I don't think that's relevant to this issue because it would have been within 60 days anyways.
Right.
I think the key is, the key issue and the key finding that the majority of the board has to make is whether the majority of the board feels like their prior approval was not reasonably permitted, the exact language in the policy, but prior approval was not reasonably permitted under the circumstances that were set forth. And if the board makes that finding, then it is consistent with the policy, because the policy itself has the exception. If the board doesn't make that finding, then he's not entitled to the reimbursement. Both decisions would be consistent with the policy. Depends on whether a majority of the board think there are sufficient facts that justify that conclusion. We've heard back and forth from both sides in terms of why there are not sufficient facts that justify finding that exception. But that determination ultimately is for the board to decide. And the policy was explicit. I think I remember working on this with the ad hoc. And we discussed this section. And it was explicitly left the way it was. We actually discussed putting specific things that would justify getting approval after. The problem was, how do you come up with a list that's going to capture every potential scenario? It's almost impossible. So the decision of the ad hoc, as later ratified by the whole board, was to leave the language in there. And the theory is a majority of the board will be able to use their discretion in a sound and appropriate way to justify whether that exception is true. It's better to deal with it on a case-by-case basis and put some general language in there as to whether or not prior approval was reasonably possible or not. It seems to me that Director Thornborough's objection to this is that he's not satisfied that there are any bona fide legitimate reasons as to why it could not have gotten approval before. And as we discussed at the last meeting, from a legal perspective, I'm hearing arguments for and against. On one hand, Director Thornborough is going to say, what I'm trying to do is highlight the issue here so the board can make a decision and hopefully move on. Director Thurbo is gonna say is. Saunders was afforded every opportunity to register months in advance. He chose not to, maybe because he knew that President Seaman was gonna be there. Whether or not, whatever his reasons were, he had the opportunity. It was known date when this event would have occurred. Vice President Saunders, as I understand his position to be, yes, while that is true, he had the physical ability to sign up before. He didn't sign up. And again, if I'm misstating either person's position, let me know. But he didn't sign up because he felt like there would be a board representative there and he didn't need to. And that he was gonna attend the meeting, I think, under his own, but he wasn't gonna seek reimbursement for save costs. But then when President Seaman was unable to go, he felt like at that point, it was appropriate to seek reimbursement. So that's the issue for the board to decide. Do you think that Saunders' reasons is good, or do you think Thurbo's reasoning makes more sense? But what I don't think is fair is for somebody to say on either side, the policy is not being followed. There are colorable factual arguments that would justify these findings, whether you agree with that as ultimately being something that you find that has enough high enough value, that's a different question. But there are colorable facts that would support either conclusion. It's just which circumstances do you give more weight? And that's where the divide is here. And I will say this. As a board, since you've all discussed the divide here, I'm going to take one step further and say it's very important that we remain civil. There's no ad hominem attacks against person or character, that we discuss the policy issue, whether the findings can be made or not, and leave it at that. If we disagree on a 3-2 on an issue, we disagree on a 3-2, we move to the next issue. But I think that that is the core issue here. What facts do you find give more weight? Saunders' version of what happened or Thurbo's version of what happened? There's an argument to be made as to both of those. I think legitimate arguments to be made as to both. It's just a question of whether you find what do you find to be, more persuasive or more valuable? I'll just leave it at that.
And I have one thing to bring up too, it should have been left at this item, and I'm stating it again to make sure everybody understands. I am very resentful now of the fact that things are getting brought up from the past and assumptions in the past have been made about, there's bad feelings or anything, that moves forward in this board. Me on a personal level, I take every one of these items that we get put before us individually, and I do not have resentment for whatever happened in the past. Up to a point that I cannot discuss in public. But there are certain things that I will say will never happen again. Thank you. Director McDonald.
Okay. Regarding policy, Frank, when you follow a policy, the spirit, I mean, I saw this as a backing up my teammate for the benefit of the district. The spirit of what he did, I believe, was to be a good teammate, to pick up the slack where one couldn't, like in a relay race or something. It's a team effort, and he picked up the slack. And by the letter of the policy, perhaps it missed the mark, and that's debatable. But then, what is it? Doesn't have anything to do with spirit.
I don't think there's an issue here between letter and spirit. I just laid out what the legal issue is.
All right.
Do you think that it is a reasonable, the word that is in the policy is reasonable. Is it reasonable for a director to not sign up because they think another director is going to go and not sign up and request reimbursement? And when that other director doesn't go, and that director who never requested reimbursement is there, is it reasonable then for him or her to ask for reimbursement? That's the issue. Is that reasonable? Is that a reasonable justification for not requesting it beforehand? Knowing that, yes, but at the same time, the counter argument to that is if you want reimbursement and you wanna go. And you wanna seek reimbursement, you should sign up for it as soon as you know about the conference. And then maybe if that other director goes, you could always, under the policy, not put in for the reimbursement. Right? But if the other director doesn't go, then one could argue, then you've requested it and you can seek reimbursement for it. That's the issue, but it's not a letter versus spirit issue. We're dealing within the letter of the law. It's just a question of whether what you find to be reasonable or not. That's all we're at right now.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
And to respond to you, there was an abrupt change immediately from 97 to 72-ish% in the unanimous votes right after that spring special meeting when things changed, and that's when the majority on the board here has been
Which
under.
has nothing to do with the,
Okay, but you.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, okay.
Going back to the meeting in, I believe it was April. For the agenda item, this is for you, Frank.
Yeah.
States, consider approval for director expenses for district representation at the Mountain County Waters Association. We discussed that. We approved, consider the approval director expenses. Says no name in there.
In the minutes,
And in the
Correct.
minutes and on the agenda both. It says.
So in the
But
staff,
there was an
of
attack,
director.
but what about the staff report?
yeah, the staff report has her name in it.
And there was a form that had to be filled out
Yeah,
that specifies the
Done.
director and all that. So I think we could be, I don't think the minutes are that. The minutes were shorthand. They could, going forward, we could specify director X or director Y specifically, but the request. In the staff report and the form that was attached to that agenda item, I recall, specified the name of the director. And I know because I worked on drafting that form with Nick. The form that we have to require has to specify the director on it. So that was the form that was submitted. So I think that we should assume for purposes of this conversation. That it was a specific request by a specific director for a specific event. And just because the minutes didn't spell out that name, doesn't mean the board didn't approve a specific director's request.
Okay, thank you for the legal equipment.
and I did say that previously in this discussion. Dr. Saunders,
And I said that in mine as well. The April 3rd was for Director Seaman. That was very clear. And I also stated at the June meeting that, if Director Seaman attended, I wouldn't have put in for reimbursement because I always do this on my own dime. And that was why I put it in, because I was the only representative, not even, our GM wasn't there either, so I was the only representative.
you weren't there?
I was there.
Oh, well, he was there, yes, you were there.
It's like, wait,
You left earlier, sorry.
I
But,
didn't leave early.
But, you didn't?
No, I went.
I guess I did.
I get to,
I guess-
no,
I guess
I went to go meet with another legislator across the street.
I left after that. But the only thing that was what I asked for, so I mean, there was no ambiguity with the April one. It was because I was the board member representative, and that was why I asked for reimbursement. And that's all I have to say for this. Moving forward, I am putting forward all of my reimbursements, so this doesn't come up again.
is there any more comments?
I have one more comment. We all got emails this last week about what the Mountain County Water Resource Association is getting more involved with, and the monies that are out there. There's specifically monies coming up for long-term fire prevention funding in California. And I believe it's beneficial to the district to have directors knowledgeable of doing this. I think it's also the GM's responsibility to be there, but I believe that the more knowledge the directors have that they can bring to the table, that I support the attendance at, day-long meetings like this. Frank, can we entertain a motion to approve directors' expenses to attend these meetings without naming who is going, or does it have to be done for every meeting, every time? Because to me, it's something that if we could say, boy, encourage directors to go to these meetings. Let's just make that motion and discuss it now. That's my question. Can we even discuss it? Because
Why can't,
that's my question.
my concern is if you want to go, there's nothing in our policy that says multiple directors can't go anywhere in here. So if anybody wanted to go to that, they could have put in for it ahead of time.
And I'm just adding, any director can go to any event. The only issue for pre-approval is reimbursement. So you just
Right.
put in for reimbursement.
And we
I think the reason, just to go on that, the reason why we don't keep it blanket like that, Director Stovall, is because it's a budget. And we have a budget for all of the directors, and that's why we put in by names to make sure we can find out the actual amount, because it has to offset our budget to make sure we meet that budget per year. So it was $28,000. Is it a little higher now? I think it's a little higher because mileage and stuff goes in now. So we kind of offset the budget when we do the report, so we know when we put in how much is left. So that's the key. So knowing that that money was offset in the budget was also the other reason I put it in, because it wasn't going to be an additional.
And to answer your question, Director Stovall, our policy says the motion need, the action under our new policy we drafted has to specify the director and the event.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, we,
And that, and sorry, I'll just say, and that was done on the wake of all of the confusion surrounding the previous version of policy. So we want to make it crystal clear exactly what approval was required, what level of specificity, so there couldn't be an argument later about whether that director truly was authorized or not. So,
and he and she is named in the staff report and the form is attached to the staff report for that meeting.
Yeah, I'm referring to the minutes.
I understand.
Right, but that was what was in
the
the,
minutes should specify going forward the name of the director, because the motion needs to specify the name of the director.
I'm going off with the information.
Yeah.
That is presented to the public for transparency, is that we budgeted for a director to go. We reimbursed the director to go.
Right.
That's the foundation I'm coming from following policy.
and for some reason you asked if I put in for reimbursement of that $125. And I never understood quite why.
I didn't wanna have two people go if we approved one. It's my opinion, had you gone, that Director Saunders would not have put in this request for reimbursement.
I just
That's
wish
my
we would have done it ahead of time, and then this would have not been a problem. But anyway, Director McDonald.
Thank you, Director Saunders. So we have a budget which includes mileage now. I learned, right? I remembered. So we might need to reconsider adding $3,000 to $5,000 more to the budget, because you haven't been asking for that every year. So just something to keep in mind if that hasn't been factored in.
As far as I believe, and I'd have to go actually look at the budget. I think we did account for the mileage and we calculated that in there. So now any previous mileage, I know that would not be calculated for, but we did calculate moving forward. So
He hasn't been, yeah.
all I'm saying is for any future, if he wants to go to, any more ledge days or conferences or trainings, that's accounted for. Any retro activity would not be within the budget.
Right. Thank you.
Any other comments? I'm gonna go to the public. Are there any public comments? I see one on the. Here you go. Here we go. Sheree?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because before you couldn't. I just think you need to make your policy a little more specific. And Michael Saunders needs to get things in on time. He, even his reports to the agenda are late most of the time. It just, just follow the rules. Have some clear policies. That's it.
That it? Thank you.
That's it.
Oh, yes, my name is Ann Reich.
Yeah.
So the only comment that I would have on here is that I think this is really just an issue of following the rules. And as a former state worker who traveled all the time on the state's dime, everything had to be pre-approved, everything had to be in line. If you turned in a travel claim that wasn't appropriate, it did not get approved and you did not get reimbursed no matter what you did. I don't think anybody is trying to, or like, I have to agree with Director Seaman that as a member of the public, I don't really want to see our board members making personal attacks against each other. I think it's not productive, it wastes a lot of time in the meetings, and just get to the business and get the business done. I don't see anything in here, and I want to give Director Thornburg the benefit of the doubt that I don't think he's really saying that Michael Saunders isn't doing his job and all that. I don't think that's been a question necessarily, but I understand his concern about not wasting the ratepayers funds, but you know, I don't think anyone's questioning that Mr. Saunders is out there representing the district and doing good work for the district. The question is he following the policies? And as the attorney stated, I'm not an attorney, but you know, did he have reasonable time was it reasonable for him to submit this late according to the policy? That's it.
Thank you. Director Thornburg.
I just want the policy followed. Policy says, if the majority of the board feels that Director Saunders did not have enough time to get approval, then and only then can the board consider reimbursing him for expenses. That's what the policy says. It's very clear, very black and white. I mean, it's, I want the policy followed. There's no, you know, and it was never done. It was the board last month. The board never said, you know, of course, individually, a lot of people said it, but the board never did that. The policy says is they never said that the board feels like he didn't have enough time. Therefore, he's eligible for reimbursement. If the board doesn't feel that way, he's not eligible. Period. It's simple. And like our legal counsel pointed out, it is very clear. So it's like you can come up with all this justifications and all whatnot, but I just want the policy followed. That's it. And we probably need to wrap this up. Where's that hand thing?
Any other comments?
I'm just gonna repeat myself again,
Director Stovall?
that the way I read the minutes and so on, the board approved a member to go. And when the president did not show up, the vice president submitted for the same funding for the same meeting. And didn't have the time ahead of time to have one replaced by another, and that's why I voted on it. Had there been two people to get those expenses, I would not have supported it. To me, the district was represented by a board member, and that's where I'm coming from. There was no increase in cost to the district. The cost was pre-approved. Granted, the one person's name is on a form. To me, it's reasonable that another person could go and replace that person at the last minute and receive exactly pretty much the same funding. Thank you.
Director McDonald?
Thank you. I don't know the exact format of this. It may have been one meeting room for everybody the whole time. But Director Stovall, you've been to a few conferences, you know that sometimes there's sessions that is beneficial to the district that somebody attend. And often there's three or more different going on at the same time. So sometimes it could be justifiable to have a couple of board members or general manager there to cover all the bases.
Yeah.
So I think, oh, I'm sorry.
And just to clarify for the public, I do not get reimbursed until the board votes on it. So when the board votes, that's when the money comes in. So it's not like you ask for reimbursement. That's why it was brought to the board and the board votes on if it's yes, you get reimbursed. If no, you get reimbursed because that was the exception and it was the exception policy.
So I just want to point one thing out, the GM is our representative at these functions. Anybody else is an add-on to him going. And that's what's kind of, an important thing to note.
And I would say that is wrong. We are part of Mountain Counties. I'm on the legislative committee. I should be able to go as the legislative committee
I didn't say
representative.
to go or not to go. I'm
You
just
said
saying,
as a representative of the district. I'm a representative as well.
okay. My view is he is our representative for the functions that he is attending. And then any director, can be in whatever position they're in. Like in the case of Mountain County's, the board meetings, the GM is not there. So there is only one, person that's going in attendance unless, I guess I ask or request somebody to come with me. But that's how it's kind of set up so far.
Mountain County events are not set up for one person to represent. The GM also has a different expense for his travel reimbursement, which is separate from the board. So the board gets to go to what activities they choose to and get reimbursed for those activities that the board agrees they should be reimbursed for. There is no limit to all five of us could show up to the Mountain County Ledge Day if we wanted to. There is no one person goes, only the GM goes. Anybody is able to go.
Actually, that's not what I just said. So, is there any other comments we have?
No, close public comment.
Pardon me?
You close public comment.
I close public comments. Do we have a motion, on this item? Hearing no motion,
I motion that the board did not find that, Director Saunders didn't have enough time to request authorization to go and get reimbursed. So therefore, under the policy, he's not entitled to be reimbursed. That's my motion.
Could you repeat that?
No.
Oh,
Essentially, he's just saying, making the finding that there wasn't reasonable time, that he did have reasonable time, to seek reimbursement, and therefore to deny, to not reimburse him for his attendance. So essentially, to not reimburse him for his attendance, that's the motion.
did you get that? I'll second it. All in favor?
We do roll call vote.
Oh, excuse me, roll call vote?
Yes, Mitch McDonald,
No.
Michael Thornborough,
Yes.
Robert Stovall,
No.
and Michael Saunders,
No,
and President Seaman.
Yes. That motion failed. So. Is it or standing or? if
Yeah,
there was-
status quo is, he was already awarded, or he was already granted the reimbursement, so
Then it-
that
then-
will continue.
The current, past, approval thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Say that again, I didn't catch that.
The past approval, the approval that was done at the previous meeting,
Stands.
stands.
Even though it didn't follow the policy.
That's what was voted last meeting.
Wow.
So, I guess we're moving into closed session. Do I ask for
If I,
public comment?
yeah, that public comment, we're gonna use.
Is there any public comments before we go into closed session?
As relates to closed session.
I see none. It is now, thank you.
Director Thornborough, I'm gonna put you into a breakout room, much like last time, so if you could just be patient and click your screen when you get a moment.
It is 12:17, and we will be adjourning to closed session.
I'm so sorry.
I gotta spiel this all again.
I'm so sorry.
Thought I had it down pretty good
You
this
did,
time.
you did great. You just wherever you said before, just say it one more time.
Are we?
Yes.
Okay, it is now 1:02 PM. And we're coming out of closed session with the conference for legal counsel, and we have nothing to report out at this time. Our next regular meeting is July 9th at 2 PM at the district office. Can I request a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Aye. Motion passes.